Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Trade the Chain. It is June 18th. Happy Friday to everybody. As our good friend Hawk pointed out, the hours are just dwindling down to adult beverage time. So we're going to get into the markets today because it is a little shifty at best. You all know that, or you wouldn't be here. I'm joined by Nick Mancini, Trade the Chain's Chief Community Officer, as well as CJ and Monty, our crypto analysts from MarketRebellion.com. Yeah, I really have nothing to say. I just want to hear what everybody on this show is thinking about today and going into the weekend. So CJ, let's just jump right in, my man.
Yeah, just a reminder that nothing said today by Trade the Chain or Market Rebellion should be considered financial advice. We do this for educational and informative purposes only. Trade the Chain is also brought to you by TradeTheChain.com, an AI-driven sentiment indicator and dashboard alert system to help you beat the market. Now with members worldwide sharing defeats and victories in the Trade the Chain Discord community. You can try it for 2 weeks free or money back guarantee, I believe is what it is, at TradeTheChain.com. But we'll take a look at the dashboard in just a moment as well. And then the other community being Market Rebellion. This is myself and Monty and our community at Market Rebellion. And with us, you get trade ideas on a weekly basis with entries, exits, and stop losses, access to our macro portfolio allocations, a pro trading platform, and a trading education curriculum that we continue to update. So if you go to marketrebellion.com/crypto, you can try the first month for just $1 and get access to Market Rebellion Crypto. We've planned some really interesting updates that Monty and I were fortunate to see in a meeting with our developers this morning. So we're really excited to be able to share some new stuff with you guys throughout the coming weeks. But being said, let's start the show. Gentlemen, anything you'd like to share before we get into the technicals?
I got one shout out. I want to give a shout out to Trading Nichols. Usually see him in the chats during these videos. He's ambassador over Trade the Chain. He is currently doing his 3 weeks away in Army Reserve duty. So thank you for that, Trading Nichols, and we hope to see you back soon.
I would like to give a shout out today to the Dallas Fed chair for making my VIX long a little extra profitable this morning. So thank you for your hawkishness. That was my shout out.
I'd like to thank Little Jesus. Are we going to do a Talladega Nights thing around the dinner table here?
Year baby Jesus, 8 pounds.
Baby Jesus, that was it. All right. CJ, hop into this before this just goes down the tubes.
Yeah. Okay. So we got some interesting opinions on the panel today. We got some bears. We got, I think Monty, you may make the case for 31K over the weekend, but I have to say it's tough to be bullish on a day like this now that we've fallen back into kind of that neutral channel. I definitely see the merit for a potential bear flag down to those prior levels, but that remains to be seen. What I think is likely is we bounce around in this channel, maybe go and test that bottom band. Nick was talking before the show about a lot of supports in the order book, primarily at 35K, 900. Is that right?
The high 35 area.
Yeah. So we've seen that area not only act as resistance, but also support as well on the way down. So, we'll see if that area holds. I do expect the weekend to have some bearish price action. Just due to our negative posture as of late, breaking that support level recently. And it's just been very characteristic of what we've seen over weekends in terms of price action. So, I wouldn't be surprised if we go down to 35K and then, rebound on Sunday and get a nice dip buying opportunity, say Saturday night or early Sunday morning, if you're in the United States. That's what I'll be looking for. And, I don't really have much to say. And, I'm not going to go short until we break like 35K. I think if we go to 34, then that's definitely much more likely we'll get an outcome of, a potential test of the lows. And, really we'll have to see that. But this weekend's going to be interesting, and I'd love to hear your guys' opinions as well. But that's kind of my view as of now.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree that this is going to be an interesting weekend. It's been a long week. This has been a very long week. And it's been weird because usually long weeks are characterized by, an influx of news related events. There was some interesting news this week, but nothing really that drove price. This week felt so long because of just like extended bearish price action and lack of opportunities to the upside pretty much across the market entirety. But I want to take a look at the 4-hour chart right here, because when I take a look at this, I think, it's establishing two pretty clear ranges that are essentially the two opportunities that I'm seeing this weekend. So, I've harped on this 36K level as a very critical level for Bitcoin. We're right up against it right now. If you take a look at the daily chart, this level was established as a critical level on the way up back earlier in the year, but also very recently, just a few days ago, a TD sequential buy 9 established 36.6K as a critical level. You can see it here on the 4-hour. We're pressing up against this level and we're looking like we may break through. So what I'm seeing this weekend is two scenarios that can play out. One, we do bounce off this level. This candle becomes more bullish, and we get a reversal back up towards 40K. That would be almost very unlikely to start the weekend. But I think if we can linger around this 36K range until about Sunday, I think, maybe the Asian market could rally us back up to 40K. But the more likely of the two scenarios that I see playing out is just a dip back into this channel right here between 36 and 31K. We've seen this range established previously, just a few weeks ago. We dipped down and retested 31K, proving that this is a somewhat critical level going forward. And, just because of the overall lack of volume, we're actually seeing an increase in some bearish volume here on the 4-hour, which is somewhat discouraging. But, I think that because of the reluctance to enter a long trade right now for a plethora of reasons, whether it be because of the impending death cross or just because of, general fear in the market because of impending regulations, whether it be, tax or otherwise that could potentially be laid down, I think it's more likely that we retest this 31K level by the end of the weekend and perhaps consolidate in this range between 31 and 36K. So that's what I'll be looking for. I think the move down here could happen pretty quick. But what I will say is that I would be content to buy at this level. There is a possibility, CJ putting out that bear flag on the daily chart, there is a possibility that we go below this level. I'm talking about this level with a lot of certainty, but there is no guarantee that it holds up. So if we do retest it, I would love to see a bounce off it. And if we get some confirmation in the form of a bullish candle, similar to what we saw here, if we saw this similar formation play out, a bearish candle followed by a somewhat bullish candle, I would have some conviction to enter back into a long trade around here with the goal of perhaps taking profit back at this current level of 36K. So I think there's going to be a lot of price action this weekend. And, at the start of next week, I think there's going to be an equal amount of opportunity.
So with that being said, what do you think is going to happen this weekend as far as Asian markets? I saw in the comment, there's not a lot happening, blah, blah, blah. One of the most interesting things that I noticed beginning to hit the news is literally right here. I mean, you already have news reports of the Chinese cracking down on miners. And this isn't, this is the beginning of what I'm assuming is going to be a long and arduous crackdown against the Chinese and crypto. So does that, let me ask it this way. Is there a chance that we could eliminate the Chinese volume going into the crypto markets on the overnight? Also, what is more affected? Let's say on a Sunday and Monday, is it the volume or is it the Asian markets that affect the bloodbaths that we usually see on a weekly basis? Anybody, up for anybody?
I think it's both. I mean, it has to be both. Not only there's less trading in general just in the United States, but when we see that Sunday dip buying and when price typically rebounds, it's when Asia is waking up for their Monday morning and the beginning of their next work week. So, I mean, It's undoubtedly both.
Well, also the recent sell-off was 100, well, I wouldn't say 100%, but a large portion of it was miner offloading Bitcoin just because they just had a bunch, overbought prices, catalyst of China saying, get out of here. They're going to offload their crypto, take their money for the year, and then obviously finesse operations elsewhere in the globe to continue going. So a lot of the Bitcoin that came off was from miners. And I think, looking forward for this news, I don't know, the Asia session, the beginning of the Asia session has been a very important time lately. Like everyone's been like, I'm going to wait till Asia wakes up, and that kind of those final hours of the American day.
Nick, you bring up a good point. And does it have to relate to, does that have anything to do with this chart? You take a look at the 7-day sentiment chart. Look at the sentiment and look where price action is. They're completely inverse of each other. You zoom in, you still have positive sentiment and yet negative pricing. What's going on here? Is that a contributing factor, what you just mentioned?
So two things that I have. So there's actually a bonus points of bullish news in the media. So $1.5 billion of MicroStrategy's money that they're recently raising is planned or expected to go into Bitcoin at some point in time. We don't know what they're doing with it, but they said that's what they want to do with it. And then we have miners moving. We don't know how much and what the exact hash power rate is yet, but Texas and Florida are growing in terms of their mining operational infrastructure. So we basically got $1.5 billion the market expects to come in as of that was Wednesday news. And then we've just got some brand new Bitcoin mining news about moving over to democratic nations. So you've got a lot of really good news and an odd sell-off. And the sell-off is mainly because of the Fed stuff. So the market's really looking at kind of what was important and is now slightly ancillary due to Jerome Powell and his megaphone.
Yeah, I completely agree, Nick. And, if you look at the performance of the S&P just this last week, I think there is a good case to be made that a lot of the poor performance in Bitcoin's price action, you can see that in the performance in the S&P as well. Earlier in the week on Monday, we actually did get a nice pop in Bitcoin. I'm just going to pull up this chart real quick. So here we got a nice pop in Bitcoin. And, on that day, the S&P on Monday, it had a pretty good day. It started off the week somewhat bullish. That's this day right here. And on that Monday morning, in unusual option activity, we saw a ton of Riot and Mara calls as well. And I think that until the S&P starts to, perform well again, I don't see Bitcoin, showing strength into the S&P weakness. So if next week on Monday morning, we come out with a bullish start to the traditional equity markets, then I could see Bitcoin bouncing back, especially if we get down to these lower levels. But, all things considered, I still think it's very important to watch the performance of the S&P because that fear does definitely spread across all markets.
I completely agree with you. And there's just one chart that I want to show quickly that I think it might even be, a precursor to checking out the equities chart, which is DXY, which is the dollar index. And we can see that the dollar increase right here is directly related to this Bitcoin drop right here, but also equities. So since I was trading the VIX, I'm tracking the S&P heavily, but we can see dollar rise, and this is what happens. So if the dollar is actually getting a little bit very overbought, we can see that a reversal may be incoming. So that's why I'm thinking that Bitcoin may be finding some sort of short-term, maybe not a true bottom, but we could see a return to the mean in this channel, potentially in the short term, which is what I'm watching for if we see dollar weakness. But I do agree with you guys that we are looking kind of bearish into potentially 34 or lower, which would give us a potential inverse head and shoulders, head, shoulder. We get another shoulder right here that could spell bullish price action, especially if the dollar moves this way. So that's what I'll be hawking over the weekend.
So a couple things. One is we do have sentiment, which is, I think, high right now because of news like this. Okay, Goldman Sachs ramps up Bitcoin trading with Novo's firm over at Galaxy. They form a partnership. No, first of all, what's interesting is I think there's 1 million people in crypto Twitter and around social media that can quote what Goldman Sachs said about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency just 2 short years ago. Okay. Now they're building it up and they've partnered with Novogratz. So congrats to Novogratz and Galaxy Digital for doing that. Another thing is I haven't read it yet, but in the chats, gentleman brings up Michael Berry and what he stated in the news, and it's showing, as I look this up, is warning against the mother of all crashes. Has anybody read this from just I believe 5 hours ago or something? No. Okay.
Well, I saw his comments, and we talked about it this morning on the Daily Crypto Bite because John seemed to give those comments a bit more credence than CJ and I did. Maybe that's a generational difference or something like that. But
I'm telling John you said that.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it definitely fits into what we were talking about earlier with some of the kind of fear that's in the market right now. I don't give any sort of comments like this too much credence. I didn't read specifically what he said, but I know he did reference the meme stocks as well, like AMC and GME. And there is some validity there. There are a lot of, unwarranted pumps in a lot of assets in both crypto and traditional equities. So, he's an experienced guy. He's seen a lot of markets. And when someone says that they haven't seen something like this before, then yeah, it's unusual and worth taking note.
Okay.
I mean, he's clearly he has a bearish bias.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he tried to short Tesla for months.
He is still short Tesla, isn't he?
So that's just my point. Like when you make a considerable amount of your entire fortune on the short side, like obviously that's going to leave you with a little bit of a short bias. I'm not trying to invalidate any of his claims. I think leverage certainly does lead to crashes, but I take it with a grain of salt, like Monty said.
Yeah, I think that's what his point was too, is that the leverage in the crypto market is, unlike anything he's ever seen. And, that is true, but that's why we corrected so sharply from 64 to 35 in a matter of days, because of the leverage in the market. So a lot of that's already been shaken out. And, that's the type of thing that you can't keep out of a free market. People are going to trade leverage if they want to. It's up to them to get burned and then stop doing it. That's the only way, you're going to truly get rid of this 100x leverage, because another exchange will pop up that offers it and traders will try it and get burned. And that's just the way it is.
If there's demand, the market's always going to fit that demand. That's the market's efficient. That's the market efficiency hypothesis. But I think one thing I want to say about Michael Burry is he's famously correct, just usually a few years late. It's just what it is. How long was he long GME before it went off? I think 18 months. How many years was he screaming about the housing crisis before the bubble popped? Probably 12 to 24 months. I don't know. I haven't watched The Big Short in a while, but he's famously correct, just usually on a 12 to 36 month delay. So,
now we could be, a lot of things in life are cyclical, right? So
that's what I'm saying.
It's like a clock telling the right time twice a day.
Exactly. If you see some smoke, if you just keep yelling fire, 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 eventually someone's going to freaking throw that match. Or maybe there is legitimately the fire that you're talking about. But if you say the same thing for long enough, knowing that the market goes in cycles, you're always going to be right? Like I can say we're going to see a bear cycle right now for 10 years. I'll be right at one point, so. Yeah.
All right. So what I want to cover next is some people have dubbed it the Cuban Missile Crisis. I dub it the Cuban Titan Crisis. I don't want to offend anybody from back in the Cuban Missile Crisis. But let's talk about that for a second. And this is going to be, I think we have to talk about it. I want to clear the air with it, just get past it. But it has been a big deal for the last 72 hours. Who wants to start it? Nick, you just had a great ramble on it in our Trade the Chain AMA at noon today. But who wants to start this off?
Well, thanks for calling it a ramble. That makes me feel really good.
Well, I didn't, geez.
I'm joking.
Nobody. All right, Nick.
I'll go ahead if you want. CJ, you want to go ahead?
You're muted.
You're muted.
I don't have any very strong feelings on it. I mean, some people in our community were like, this is the second time that this has happened to Cuban. If he ever suggests a cryptocurrency, just run. I mean, I give the guy the benefit of the doubt, but like, I have no existential claims on like what this means for the future. It's just an incident that happened, similar to like what we saw with sushi when the chef went away. But we'll see what happens. It sounds like you've got much stronger opinions though, or things that you'd like to convey.
Just the facts, man. Just the
I want to
facts.
hear the ramble. I want to hear this.
Yeah.
Okay, you know, I used the wrong word. All right, I'm sorry.
I know I'm all self-conscious now. I'm leaving this room, guys. I'm gone. No, so I mean, I think it's just interesting. One, I mean, there's a lot of lessons learned here. So one, Cuban it's oddly timed with very closely press of Cuban talking about providing liquidity. So I think a lesson learned is if you're tossing around 5, 6, 7 figures of liquidity, shut up. Just don't tell anybody. It's probably in your best interest if everyone can track wallets and figure out what platform you're using and potentially try to exploit that to screw you over. It's just better to not shout from the heavens, I have $1 million in liquidity in X platform anywhere. So that's the main one. The second one is just basic due diligence on tokenomics. Obviously, you know, an algorithmic stablecoin where you're minting in perpetuity an asset to stabilize a stablecoin, that's just not going to work, because if you continue to mint things forever, obviously more supply, same demand equals lower price. Even if your demand increases, it has to increase at the same rate of your supply increase. So it's just nonsense to believe that everyone will just ape into random things without doing any research tokenomics. I think there will be a larger focus on that. I can actually see a few groups coming out of this fiasco and seeing sushi 8 months ago and actually starting something to maybe alert people of tokenomics a little bit better. We've seen that in the past. So those are my two big ones. And then the last one is just, I'm very sorry to those who ended up losing money. The story goes, just so you understand, two coins. There's Iron and there's Titan. Iron is the stable coin, which is 25% Titan and 75% USD. And then there's Titan, which is, you know, obviously used to operate the network, but is free market currency. So, you know, when you have a free market currency that's supposed to stabilize another asset, there's your giant risk. So asset went up to $65. Asset dropped to 60, obviously started a wave of likely algorithmic sells, which continued to drop the price further. Since Titan is 25% of Iron, a massive decrease of Titan destabilized Iron to the point where it was no longer $1. It was about 70 cents at one point, as low as I think in the 60s. So if your stable coins, you know, in 60% of its original value, and the asset that's supposed to stabilize the stable coin is just being minted into perpetuity and decreasing in value, obviously your stable coin is going to get increasingly unstable. Eventually, because enough Matic or enough Titan was minted, it went to zero. So there's your story. But the lesson learned is obviously don't tell people where you put all your liquidity, and look into the tokenomics of the platform in which you are providing liquidity, so that you know either A, I can expect a rug pull in X fashion, or here are the risky exploits, or maybe I just need to stay away from it altogether. So those are my opinions, and that's the quick synopsis on what happened and what forced a 100% drop in Titan.
Thank you, Nick. That was very insightful and very clarifying for, I'm sure, a lot of viewers out there. I just wanted to show a brilliant meme that Monty posted the other day, because I think it sums up the.
By the way, that was a great
very
meme.
accurately.
That was a great meme.
And yeah, I actually, yeah, this meme is great. I did not create this. Someone sent it to me. But yeah, that leads into I have a question for you, Nick, you know, regarding that last panel on that meme. You know, after this all happened, Cuban basically says, you know, where are the regulators? They should be regulating this. So what do you think? Like, is there some obligation for the regulators to be taking a look at this because there are such massive amounts of money being put into it? Or, you know, like you said, is it up to the investor to do their due diligence?
So I think if you're putting your money anywhere, it's always up. I think there is always an onus on the individual where you put your money. But in the context of regulation, so I think whatever I say after this, I just want to preface it with what the SEC has already signaled. They will not regulate crypto in any fashion for the 2021 fiscal year. They've said that. That is pretty much what Gensler has signaled that. I would expect something in 2022, 2023 when these rate hikes start rising and Jerome Powell gets past, you know, unemployment or whatever. So in terms of what regulation may look like in the future, I think the majority of the people, maybe even on this call or in the chat, are unaware of just what stablecoins mean for the crypto universe. That you can directly tie the exponential rise of stablecoin growth with the exponential rise of crypto liquidity and volume in the market. Stablecoins are the reason that we are at the price levels we are today, and there's no way of getting around it. We know that Tether is the leader. Tether had its issues. Tether beat its issues. If you share me FUD, I'm going to shoot it down because Tether has done that time and time again. And then USDC and I think Gemini token are kind of the other big leaders in the market as well. So something is going to have to happen at some point with stablecoins because one, it opens up a US dollar transfer behind the scenes, which is kind of like hard cash. But if anything's happening digitally, the government's going to want in on it. And then two, if stablecoins are basically the tide that lifts all boats, if you're just pouring trillions of liquidity into a market, the government's going to want something to do with that as well. So expect something soon, but I don't think anything is going to happen in terms of regulation that's going to impact the current bull market that we're in. So I hope that made sense.
An interesting question that we're seeing in chat is, could this happen to USDC or Tether with what we saw with Titan and Iron? And not with USDC, that's actively audited and is fully backed. So that's already one that is regulated. But what, in terms of Tether, do you guys think could possibly happen? I mean, just what I think is like, when we see Tether FUD in the past, people sell what they can from Tether and they typically go into Bitcoin. And we've seen, $1,000 price increases in Bitcoin when there's been Tether FUD in the market. But what's your guys' thought in that? Does that, pose some existential threat to the crypto market?
I mean, Tether's always had its own exposure risk. People have dealt with that for a long time, but people also have to realize that USDT is the largest used stable coin in the world still when it comes to trading. And I think it'll be hard for the predominantly Asian market of USDT users to give that up.
Yeah,
I would like one other thing real quick. Sorry, Nick, is that there was a Medium article put out about a month and a half ago, which pointed out that USDC's monthly audit reports were over 2 months late and have not been filed since February. I do want to state that, but I'm not spreading FUD, dude.
No, I think there's reasons for a delay. I mean, there's been a lot of stuff. There's been a lot of action in crypto, and I'm sure working with regulators, there's accounting changes that happen as well for, I'm not an accounting expert, but I do know there are different ways of doing it, and there are ways of massaging the regulators to favor accounting, one way of accounting over the other. But I will say, in terms of the only risk I see with Tether is I think about 25% of what is backing their $1 US equivalents is dollar equivalents. So I don't think it's Titan token that they're minting in perpetuity because there is no token behind the parent company of Tether. But is it yuan? Is it gold? Is it houses? We don't know what that is. So that is the only legitimate risk. But I would find it difficult to believe with how large Tether is, how they've beaten back all FUD and all naysayers, that they would back it with highly crappy or ultra illiquid assets. I find that hard to believe.
All right. Very cool. Hey, I found this really cool feature. I'm not sure. This is either going to just end our show right now or it's going to do something cool. Hang on. I don't know if it's going to work. It had to do with.
Oh, no, I see it. The merch.
Oh, you saw it? Where did it go? Where'd it go?
It's in the chat.
Oh, that's so cool. If you want to trade the chain t-shirt, I just figured out where to put it so everybody could see it from the store.
Damn, I want one. He didn't even give me one yet.
Very cool. I like that. That's nice. Also, folks, regardless of where the market is, up or down, if you could hit the like button, that'd be great. We don't make the market go down. Okay, so don't only hit it the good one, the thumbs up when it's up and the thumbs down when it's going down, just if you like our content. And if 50% of people who watch this show, I found out from the metrics, are not subscribed. If you like us, hit subscribe button. We do this every day. Any parting thoughts, people, as we go into the weekend? Any words of wisdom for the Kryptonites watching?
Well, we're already falling off a cliff ever since the start of this stream, now below 36K at 35.8. It's a big bearish engulfing candle. So maybe we end up seeing 31K or 32K, or yeah, there we go. I still think there's going to be a buying opportunity this weekend, and we're going to get a reaction rally in the midst of the sell-off, but just got to watch the screens carefully and be ready to hop when it actually does.
So is that the position then you're taking this weekend, CJ, to watch and see if it's a buying opportunity or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well said.
Yeah,
Monty, what tell us what Mr. Short's weekend is going to look like.
no, my weekend is going to be the same as CJ's. I'm going to be doing what I've been doing for the last 2 weeks. I'm going to be sitting right on these hands so I don't make any stupid decisions. But on Sunday, I'm taking the handcuffs off, firing up the Voyager app, because I'm going to be ready, because I think there will be a reaction rally. Like CJ said, I think if the S&P can rally on Monday, I'm going to be looking to buy some Bitcoin early Monday morning, and that's my plan.
Well, then that begs the question: are there any particular ignition assets, CJ, in your future that you're seeing?
I like Luna a lot at these current levels. There's a variety of assets that are oversold and I think will jump. It's just interesting though. We've seen Bitcoin kind of lead the way, and that plays into, Nick's emphasis. I mean, both of you guys, Monty and Nick, you both been emphasizing Bitcoin dominance very strongly over the last week or so. And so we'll see if Bitcoin kind of leads the way, if there is a reaction rally of some sorts. And then, altcoins are, like, let's say Bitcoin goes up 5 to 10%, alts only go up like 2 to 3%. We may see something like that happen. But we'll have to see. I don't have a crystal ball. I'm just speculating like you guys are as well.
Okay.
I'm with you guys. I think that the weekend's not going to be the most exciting weekend ever unless you're a bear. And I will be steadily watching the dollar index because, unfortunately, I hate to say that I'm like fighting against the strong dollar, because I would like to buy a few more Big Macs with what I have in my bank account. But a weaker dollar is certainly better for the commodities market, at least in the short term. So that'll be what I'm tracking.
And to your point, Nick, it was unbelievable how strong the dollar's gotten in such a short period of time. So definitely keeping an eye on that. All right. Sounds good. If something happens this weekend, as I always threaten, CJ and I will hop on and address the situation while Nick and Monty are off like sunbathing or something. But or playing golf. Guys, thank you very much for tuning in today. I hope you have a great weekend from all of us. Don't forget, check out marketrebellion.com/crypto. And if you're a member already, there's actually a cocktail hour this evening at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Don't forget to follow Nick Mancini on Twitter. His golden nuggets of joy are spread across the globe there. Until then, hang on to your handlebars. Happy trading, and we will